Inland Sports.
And now join us here on the Inland Sports Show. He's the brand new head coach of your Rialto Knights. It is Derwin Henderson. And Coach, first off, congrats on the Rialto gig. What was it about the Knights' job? What was it about the program or the school or the kids that you were like, you know what? This is a good fit. I want to be there. I want to be their head football coach.
Well, first of all, the athletic director, was someone that really, he really talked well about the program and his vision for the program. So, from there, I just, I kind of got the itch to get back into being a head coach and looked at the program, no matter what the record was last year, the year before, I thought Rialto had I thought they had some pretty nice talent. And I just, and right now I'm taking a chance.
Yeah.
And, it gets me back into it. And, with them going 0 for last year, at this point, I can only go up. So I've always been pretty much a coach that likes to start a program from the bottom. And this was one that gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, like you just said, I think it was 2021, they went to the CIF finals.
Right.
But the last couple of years, I mean, it's been rough. Like you mentioned, no wins last season. So, if you've done it before, what do you think is the blueprint? What do you think is key? What's critical to take a program that's been struggling and trying to get them just, to build some confidence and trying to get them trending in the right direction? What do you think is the most important thing?
Well, it's like a complete culture change. You want to start, you want to kind of build it from the bottom. And for me, it was the weight room. It was kind of like that. It was kind of like you just got to build from the weight room, put in the speed program, get the kids to believe themselves, bring in a great staff, and you can turn things around pretty quick, in high school football. So, for us, it was just changing the culture. It seemed the program had got stale. So for me, it was to go in, change things up as far as like strength and conditioning, trying to encourage the kids to run track. And then, just from there, bringing in a great coaching staff. And we brought one in. And, at this point, all the kids have, they're all starting over. It's fresh for everyone. And we move from there.
All right, Coach, speaking of your coaching staff, I got to ask you about the Bass brothers. They're, Inland Empire football royalty, in this area.
Yeah.
So talk about your coaching staff. And, of course, the Bass brothers that are going to come help out the Knights.
You know what? I wanted to bring in a staff that had been part of a winning program, had been part of what I would call a dynasty, which is Centennial.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring in some people that were good teachers, people that people that the kids could look up to, or people that the team could look up to. So, so bringing in Mike and Ryan Bass that was huge for us. Bringing in Nehemiah Smith from Centennial, who was the receiver coach there. We think it's going to bring a winning culture over at Rialto. I mean, this is. I mean, you can't have it any better right now. We can only go up.
Yeah.
And, there's talent at the school. We just have to bring it out. The kids are actually working very, very hard. We have no regrets coming over there, and dealing with, with everything that's going on. We have a pretty talented team. I don't know. I would never think by looking at the group we had that they didn't win a game, last year. They're a pretty talented bunch. The freshman team was 9-1. We're pretty big up front. We got some guys in the weight room working hard. We got some guys that are physical, some guys that are tough. We have some good perimeter players. We have some great skill guys. So, I mean, I just can't see us, I can't see us not having a successful year this year.
Coach, real quick, let's do a quick bio on you. I know you've been a head coach elsewhere, so if fans are watching this, give a quick bio, some of your where you're from, some of your coaching stops.
You know what? As a young coach, I was at Taft High School. I've been coaching 25 years. So, I mean, I started off in Pop Warner, obviously, but yeah, I coached at Taft High School. I've coached at Narbonne High School. Well, I should say that I was the OC at Taft. I was an offensive coordinator at St. Bernard's High School. I got my first head coaching. Oh, I was OC at Lusinger High School. So I've been in some pretty good school. Um, I got my first head coaching job at Southeast High School, which was in LA Unified. In 2011, we won the city championship. I moved from there. I went to Morningside High School. That was closer to my home. So I went there. Had one playoff run out of 2 years. I was the head coach at Millikan High School, and my last stop was actually Hawthorne High School, is where I grew up. I grew up in Hawthorne, and I was the coach there for 3 years. And we made one playoff run. My last game I coached, we lost to Rio Hondo Prep in the playoffs, and I just decided it was time for me to give up my head coaching job. I had a son that was born then, and I ended up then buying a house over in Eastville, and I decided to get back into coaching. So I went to Centennial with Matt, and I stayed there until this opportunity came up. I've been around a long time.
Coach, let me ask you this: beyond just having talent, what do you think makes up a championship team? Is it effort? Is it attitude? Is it being
Um,
coachable? Like what is that? What does a championship team look like?
I tell you, at my last stop at Hawthorne, the school hadn't been to the playoffs for almost 20 years. For us at that program, it took discipline. It took everybody being on the same page and having the same goal. That was one, because we didn't have that much talent. You know, we didn't have that much talent once I first got there. So it just took a system, and we always ran the spread. It took a system on offense, a system on defense, that we used every ounce of ability, every ounce of effort that they had to kind of that move that particular team to the playoffs. Well, I see the Rialto team the same way. We're just trying to get everyone to play a role and not do anything extra. I'm not asking for them to do anything out of the ordinary. I just want everybody to play their role, everyone to play their position to their maximum potential, and then we should be okay. But yeah, we don't have to have the best players in the Inland Empire. I mean, this is not Centennial, obviously, but we do have players that are willing to put it on the line right now. And because they haven't been successful, they're just, itching to be successful. They're itching. So they're putting in the extra work. And it's always the off season. And I'll mention this until the end of my coaching career. Strength and conditioning is half the battle. And then from there, the discipline portion of it is next. And then just having a system in place where the kids feel comfortable and we can move from there.
Coach, what are you doing right now to get ready for the start of the season? You guys doing spring ball already? Hitting the weight room?
Well, we hit the weight room for the last 2 months. Right now we're on spring ball. We're just implementing just the basics. We're just implementing, you know what? We're trying to get kids to line up in the right place. We're trying, like with our system, we're having to put in the verbiage. And we're just, at this point, we're just trying to get the kids comfortable with our style of play. And we're going to play fast, obviously. It's going to be a mini Centennial. So we're going to play fast, and we're going to play downhill. We're going to play physical. And that's going to be our ball. That's what we're going to play.
Yeah, going back to Centennial, just you're right. They play fast. They get back to the line of scrimmage and snap that ball quickly, and they're fast on offense, fast on defense. They score a lot of points. I was going to ask you, so how would you describe your brand of football? Like, I mean, do you all your different coaching stops? Do you kind of adapt to the players that you have, or do you kind of have like a certain way you want to play, and you just kind of bring your players up to that level to do those sorts of things?
Well, I have two mentors. I'll say Matt Logan, and I'll say Troy Starr, who was a legend in city football. So, with Troy, it was being physical on defense. Obviously, with Matt on offense, going fast, being on the ball very fast and trying to run as many plays as you could. The more offensive plays you get, the more opportunity to score. So on offense, we're going to do that. Obviously with that, Coach Smith is going to bring that kind of style of ball. We're going to be a zone team that that for us, it's more like the veer really. And we're going to come down here. We're going to be physical and no more running side to side. And I know this team in the past, I know they ran things like the jet sweep and all that. Now, we're going to come downhill. We're just going to be physical up front. We're about 290 up front. So we're going to bang you up front. And then from there, just play action, because we got four guys on the outside that can run. And I'm huge on this. I'm huge on having guys that can run on the outside. We can teach you to catch, but I can't teach you to run. So yeah, so for us, we're going to put our blazers out there and try to put somebody in the backfield that's going to pound it, and then go from there. And on defense, it's about getting all 11 hats on the ball and being really physical. If we can beat teams up, and we can make them quit, and that's kind of how that is. That's my style there.
All right, Coach. And finally, you mentioned your big guys up front. You even sent me a picture. You got some big fellas up there holding down the trenches.
Yes.
Let me ask you. So when you first got to the program, and now you've been there like 2 months now to work with these guys. Give me a pleasant surprise. Was it like you mentioned, hey, we actually got some skill players, or we actually got size? Like, we're going to be pretty beefy up front. Like, what was a pleasant surprise where you're like, okay, we're going to be okay here?
I was shocked because this is the first school in my last two stops where we had that much size up front. And, when we went into our strength and conditioning program, it wasn't only that, but it was the plyometric stuff. It was them doing, jumping over hurdles, box jumps, and doing all that. And I found that our big guys are just as athletic. Not only are they big, but they're pretty athletic. So, we can do more than just come downhill. Guys can pull, guys can log through, guys can kick out. Our offensive line is very, very good. It was just a matter of getting them to understand we want to go downhill. And once they realized that, they were on board. But I was shocked at the size that we had up front. I was really shocked at that. We have some skill guys, but that really shocked me that we are so big up front. So that was important. You know what? And there's a lot of kids coming back from last year's team who are very hungry. They don't want the 0-10 mark. So that was the one thing we stressed was, hey, this team has this opportunity to be like the 21-22 team. Yeah. We have the opportunity. And with one of the things that I learned is now that we're in the lower part of that conference, the lower part of the league, we have a really big opportunity, man, to do some big things.
Yeah, there's winnable games there, man. That league is wide open for anybody to take.
Absolutely. It's wide open. So that gives opportunity. And we have a pretty good preseason, so we can get our feet wet and the kids can they can earn some respect, they can be successful and then go from there. So
well, that's exciting, Coach, man, and I love the ties back to Centennial. That's good company to keep right there. Those Huskies.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the Rialto gig. It sounds like you guys are off and running and things are moving along here for the Knights to try to bounce back here this upcoming fall in 2025. That is Derwin Henderson, the new head football coach at Rialto here on the Inland Sports Show. Coach, congrats again, and hopefully we can do this again soon in person.
Oh, no problem. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You got it. That's Derwin Henderson, head coach of the Knights here on the Inland Sports Show.
Inland Sports.